The business activities of Keppel Verolme focus mainly on the docking, repair and conversion of ships and offshore units. We're available to our customers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Safety and the environment are priorities for our company. Keppel Verolme is certified to VCA, ISO 9000, ISO 14000 and OSAS 18000 for management of quality, health, safety and environment. Furthermore, the yard is ISPS certified for security. In accordance with statutory regulations, arrivals and departures of our own personnel and external personnel are registered by means of badging. On their first workday, employees report to the Techno Support Department. After checking for qualifications and ID, the employees receive instruction and a badge. This badge remains the personal property of the recipient. If the badge holder is absent for an uninterrupted period of longer than 3 days, the badge is automatically blocked. After re-registering with the Techno Support Department, the badge is reactivated. You may also have to badge again to gain access to a ship or drilling rig. Please remember, if you don't register by badging, we will not be aware of your presence on the site in the event of an incident. After viewing the safety film and being issued with a badge, the worker insourced by Keppel Verolme goes to the warehouse to take receipt of the standard compulsory personal protective equipment. This personal protective equipment includes work overalls, work shoes, hard hat, safety goggles, gloves, and earplugs. Take your badge with you. On the monitor screens in the changing room, you'll see the name of the project to which you've been allocated and the name of the person in charge on behalf of Keppel Verolme. After viewing the safety film and being issued with a badge, the employees of subcontractors must go to their employer's location. Visitors of the yard are issued with a day pass by the security department. Everyone is required to wear the correct personal protective equipment. The entire yard area is monitored by cameras. When leaving the site, removing property of Keppel Verolme without permission is forbidden, and the checks are very strict. Violations will lead to sanctions. Before you start work, the supervising officer must request a work permit from the Safety and Environment Department. Before the permit can be requested, a task risk analysis must first be made of the work to be carried out at the work location. Following inspection, the safety officer will write out a work permit. Each employee must ensure the presence and content of the work permit and inspect the workplace using the LMRA card. At the end of the workday, and when the work is transferred to the next shift, the work permit must be signed on the back by both supervisors. Once all work has been completed, the license holder must deregister the work permit with the Safety and Environment Department. Tools and materials will only be issued at the warehouse upon presentation of a badge. No matter what tool you require, only approved equipment may be used. When using air hoses, you must always also use a whip check. Electrical tools and lighting to be used for work on board must be connected to a safe power supply, either 120 volts DC or 50 volts AC. Under certain circumstances, following approval from the Safety and Environment Department, other voltages may be permitted. Only fully trained members of staff authorized for the task are allowed to operate a cherry picker. A safety harness must always be worn in the cherry picker. Forklift trucks may only be driven by fully trained, specially designated members of staff. All lifting equipment is inspected every year. The color codes are laid down by the International Maritime Organization, the IMO. The color code is applied in a clearly visible location. You're only allowed to work with certified lifting equipment. Lifting hooks must be fitted with a locking pin. Make sure the load is correctly attached and that the weight to be carried doesn't exceed the crane's maximum safe lifting capacity. Here, you'll first see an example of how things should not be done. And this is the correct working method. A scaff tag must always be attached at the access point to scaffolding. Scaffolding may only be mounted once the scaff tag, fully completed by the scaffolder, has been placed in the plastic holder. If scaffolding is found to be unsafe, the scaff tag is removed and handed in to the Safety and Environment Department. Never make alterations to the scaffolding. Leave this job to the certified scaffolders. Working in an enclosed space leads to increased safety risks. Whenever an enclosed space is opened, an expert will measure for the presence of oxygen and any flammable gases in the air. If the measurement meets the standards, the work permit can be issued. Before you start work, make sure the area is well ventilated and that there is sufficient light. A T-card rack will be placed by the entrance to the enclosed space, so anyone can see whether there are people present in the enclosed space. At least 2 people must be present in the enclosed space at all times, and there must be some form of communication with a superior or safety officer outside. Check your hoses and connections for leaks. Never open the valve on a cutting torch you're not using yourself. In enclosed spaces, the use of high voltage equipment is forbidden in connection with the risk of electrocution. Safe working voltages are 50 volts AC and 120 volts DC. Whenever you interrupt your work, always take the cutter and hoses with you outside and make sure they're disconnected. Never use oxygen for cleaning or cooling purposes. Never repair faulty equipment yourself. Always return it directly to the warehouse. When chemical substances are issued at the warehouse, they will always be accompanied by a material safety data sheet for the substance in question. This sheet describes how you can work with the substance without any risk to your safety and health. This is an example of a safety information sheet. Except in the specially designated smoking unit and at locations where smoking is specifically permitted, smoking is forbidden in all washrooms and changing rooms, in the medical service, archives and storage rooms, and all offices. Consumption and even possession of alcohol or drugs is strictly forbidden. Without prior permission from the management, filming and photography on the company site are not permitted. A speed limit of 30 km per hour applies to the entire yard. Walkways are set aside for pedestrians. Otherwise, remember that yard transport always has priority. If you've been given permission to move around the yard by car by the Safety and Environment Department, you must make use of the designated parking spaces. Parking on the crane track is strictly forbidden. Any violation will lead to vehicle access to the yard site being withdrawn. Always eat and drink in the designated location. Wash your hands before eating. It goes without saying that you must keep your workplace clean. You and your employer are responsible for good housekeeping. Violations will lead to sanctions. At the yard, waste is separated into domestic waste, commercial waste, metal and chemical waste. Everyone must make sure that waste is placed in the correct containers. Report any environmental contamination on the yard site to the Safety and Environment Department. Safety and the environment are shared responsibilities. Hazardous situations, accidents and near accidents, material damage and environmental damage must be reported to the Safety and Environment Department and your immediate superior. The internal alarm number is extension 4380 or 4381. The saying applies to everyone. Prevention is better than cure. If the siren sounds, you must immediately move to the nearest muster point. Make sure you leave your workplace in a safe condition. Now you'll be shown a brief summary of the subjects just dealt with. Registration, personal protective equipment, work permit, cherry picker, lifting, scaffolding, enclosed space, housekeeping, hazardous situations, incidents. All these safety regulations and rules of conduct are laid down in a booklet. Make sure you stick to these rules at all times, for the sake of your own safety and that of your colleagues. You'll receive a copy of the booklet at the end of the film.